All of us here in the Lost Souls of America family, including our listeners, know what it means to feel passionate about missing persons investigations. It's an empathy that pulls on our heartstrings and makes us want to do whatever we can with the skills we have. We know that we have to look out for each other, and one of our own needs our help. A missing persons investigator disappeared in the summer of 2019 and still has not been located nearly 3 years later. The 37-year-old mother of two leaves her sister's home in Louisville, Kentucky around 1 a.m. that August 13th, walking on foot the short trek back to their mother's house. What happens next has been heavily speculated on, but one thing is for sure, someone, somewhere knows where she is today. Tonight, we bring you a special interview with the family of the missing woman. Listen through for the calls to action so that we can help her the way she helped others. This is the case of the disappearance of Andrea Knabel. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lost Souls of America podcast. I'm your host, Jamie, and joining us tonight is our beautiful producer, Amelia. Hi, Amelia.
Hey, Jamie.
We also have two very special guests here with us tonight. Erin Knabel is a divorced mother of three, a former IT specialist, and currently a supervisor. She loves her job, her family, and being a mom and an aunt. In her free time, she likes to spend time with her kids and go on hikes. And she used to love doing these activities with her sister, Andrea. So now that she's gone, she feels like the next best thing is doing all that she can to find her by raising awareness for finding Andrea. Michael has been married for 16 years, went to the University of Louisville, just as his daughter Andrea did, both getting business degrees from the same alma mater. He's been in financial investments for 30 years. Erin and Mike have worked tirelessly from the moment Andrea went missing to follow every single tip and lead, no matter how small. We can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here with us tonight. We're so sorry for this difficult time your family is going through, and I can't imagine the weight you must feel every day. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be here. It's so nice to meet both of you.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
So I would really love to start by having you just tell us a little bit about Andrea. I would love to get to know her a little, what she was like growing up, some of your favorite memories, things like that.
I can start with that. Andrea, she was always kind of the leader, being the oldest sister. Andrea's 3 years older than me and then 4 years older than my little sister. So she kind of was basically a second mother to us. Her nickname was Mother Andrea. For example, if we were getting into something that might be dangerous when we were little, she'd say, like, don't do that, you'll get in trouble. Or, she'd always steer us in the right direction. And even as a teenager and adults, if I had a problem, I always knew that I could go to her. It's a different relationship when it's your sister, you have inside jokes and they know you on a very deep level that no one else can really begin to know you on. So we were extremely close. Always. One thing that I like to say about Andrea and her personality is that on my darkest day, on a day where I feel like giving up, I can walk into the door of Andrea's house and almost immediately feel like everything's fine. Sometimes when everything's going wrong in your life, you don't need that person that's going to be reasonable and give you a step-by-step instruction. Sometimes you just need someone that's going to be silly and say something crazy to make you laugh and make you forget about it, So she was always able to do that for me and make me relax and feel better about everything to where I could concentrate, later on and fix whatever was bothering me. So that's who Andrea has always been to me.
That's so nice. And in all the things that I've seen of her, I was always so drawn to her smile. What a vibrant smile she always had. She was always smiling and bubbly. I can imagine she made you laugh.
The things that I still have that I cherish the most of Andrea is a lot of things on Facebook, like in my memories, because that's how we would communicate the most in Messenger. And then we would tag each other in posts all the time that reminded us of like funny things that happened. And she did a lot of Facebook lives that we were both in. So I have a lot of memories where I can still go back and hear her voice. Unfortunately, she was usually the one holding the camera though. So it's not where you can see her, but we can still hear her. So that makes me happy.
That's nice. Yeah.
I can vouch for most everything Erin said. especially how she helped and what an easy baby she was. I mean, there are very few easy babies, but she was easy for herself. She was easy when the other children came along. I've got a picture here if you want to see it real quick that will vouch for the mother Andrea picture. And I'm going to try to guide it over here for you to see it. Can you see that?
Oh, that's so cute.
That's Andrea holding Aaron right there.
Oh, she's so happy. That grin. She's so happy with that new baby. That's very cute.
So anyway, I like that picture too. But anyway, she was very, very easy growing up. She made friends probably easier and had some very, very true talents that I think are very rare in that she would meet everybody in the room. When she went to school, she would know everybody in her class and everybody in the classes ahead of her and behind her. Yeah. And then finally, everybody in the whole school. So I wasn't like that. Were you? I knew, the people that I hung around with and maybe a few in the upper class, a few in the lower, but she's one of these people that had a gift around people. And she seemed to have a true talent there. And I thought it was extraordinary, actually. So very giving person, an easy baby, an easy child to deal with. Very smart, precocious. We took her out of schools and had to find something else more challenging because she was making straight A's and not studying. So very, very bright girl. Very bright girl.
And you said she went to the same college as you. She got a business degree at the same school as you.
That's correct. She did. And but in grade school, it was just so easy. Elementary school, so easy. We took her out and put her in a special math science magnet program. And anyway. So she really excelled at academics, and there's no doubt about that.
So now I know the couple of years leading up to her disappearance, I know that she had kind of fallen on hard times a little bit. I think she got laid off from her job.
That's questionable. We're not sure whether she got laid off or she got let go. We're not sure. But what we do know is that the large corporation here in town had 2 massive layoffs right around the same time. The truth be told is Andrea did not like working for a corporation. She was independent and she was entrepreneurial, and she had several side businesses, and that's what she wanted to do. Aaron can probably add a little bit to that.
Yeah. So Andrea, one of the things that she would do for money, which I would help her with this sometimes, like we would do it just as we were hanging out together as sisters. So she would go to places that had pallets. It kind of reminded me of Storage Wars, like where you go and you look at the pallets and you can see what's on at the top of a pallet and kind of guess what's in there. But her goal was always to find ones that had large items in it, like maybe TVs or something like that, that she would check them out, make sure they were not broken, all the pieces were there, and then resell it. So she would do that like on Marketplace, Craigslist, any other website like that to resell things, and she would make a good profit, but it was a lot of work. It really was, especially if you opened up something with, it ended up having a lot of small things underneath. So, but she enjoyed doing that. And one thing that I thought was very special about that is that through all the awareness I've been raising, obviously, like I get messages on all platforms now, and so many people who have messaged me are people that might have bought one thing from her and then never talked to her again. And they remember her and what a sweet person she was. And they'll say, like, I had a lot of issues going on at the time and I had to keep rescheduling, and she was so nice to me. And she even sat and talked to me for an hour when she dropped off, the item. They just all said what a caring and nice person she was and how they stood out or how she stood out. And that's, in my opinion, that's not normal. That's not a normal interaction. Like, it's special. And I feel like she was that way to everyone. She's just a very caring person, and it shows.
Well, I thought you could see how caring she was in all of the footage where she was speaking about being involved with the Missing in America organization, just because we are people who are invested in missing person cases too, So I personally was really drawn to that you can tell how caring she is and how important other people are to her by her drive to get out there. And she wasn't doing what we're doing, where she's just talking about it. She was really out there, it seems to me at least, out there physically looking for people. Can you tell us a little bit about Andrea's work with that stuff?
I know that she was involved in foot searches, meaning they would search the woods or just any area where they think a person might have gone. She was always really good at reading maps. Like, for example, like the hiking situation. If I went hiking, I just pick a trail and see where it leads me, and kind of pay attention to the direction and get back to my car. But Andrea would like go into the center, find the maps, and plan out a trail that she felt like doing that day and the amount of miles, and that's what she would take. Like she's just she's good at planning and mapping out areas and all that. She's a lot better at that. And I think that she would use that skill in searches. She's great with technology. So she would do a lot of searches on the internet and discover things for private investigators. So mainly what they would do is volunteer for private investigators. And the one that they worked with the most was Tracy Leonard, because he volunteers his time looking for missing people.
Is Tracy Leonard still involved with the case? Is he still working with you?
Yes, he does. Him and his brother, he's actually having some major health problems right now at this point. So we're just hoping for the best for him. He's retiring, I think, in a month, but he said that he's still planning on helping all active. He's not going to start a case and not finish it, basically. And that he said that includes Andrea. So he's not taking on new work is basically what he means. He's a very dedicated person, and he doesn't like just doing nothing. And plus, he wants to solve this for us.
And he knew Andrea personally, so I'm sure he's invested.
Oh, yeah. He told me he wanted to make her a private investigator and that he would have helped her with the problems she had, and he would have gotten her a car had he known that this was going on. So he thought very highly of Andrea.
And that actually leads me to another question that I had. Were you aware of any undercover work or anything like that she was doing? No. I just was curious because I know some people have speculated on it. So I wasn't sure from your perspective if that was something that you were familiar with.
I've just recently actually spoken with police. It was earlier today about Finding Andrea series. None of that had ever been talked about until the TV show came out. And in my opinion, they kind of took advantage of it to make it dramatic. So the detective on Andrea's case told me they found no evidence of that at all. Tracy Leonard said the same thing, no evidence of that. He never saw Andrea working on the case. And I even spoke to the missing boy's mother, and she told me the same thing, that Andrea was not involved to her knowledge.
So if she did do something, it was on her own initiative and without any partners that we know of in that respect. So if she did it on her own, that's possible, but we don't know of any instance where that's.
Yeah, there's been no evidence of it. I feel like she would have spoken to his mother because Amy is very active in looking for her son.
That's good to know. Thank you. And I want you to know too, just on a personal level, I've watched Finding Andrea twice now, and I both times found it to be sensational.
Thank
you. Meaning they were creating sensationalism.
Yeah, we understand what you mean.
It frustrated me that they made me out to be this like guilt-ridden person that just sits around feeling sorry for themselves, when actually the opposite is true. That's not something that I often talk about unless someone asks me, which is what they did. They asked me about that and I answered a question, and they didn't say a single word about everything we've done to find her, which it's not because I want credit. It's because so many different things have already been ruled out that it caused people to start talking about it. And it's like, that's something we knew, 2 years ago or a year ago. That's stuff we've already figured out was not the case. Like the situation with Suzette going over the bridge was just ridiculous.
And they made that the biggest deal.
It's important for your members to know that Aaron and I were fully prepared for what was going to happen in that series. We knew that we would be exploited in a certain sense. Some of it was going to be positive, and some of it was going to be dirty laundry. We were fully ready of it. As a matter of fact, I pulled up an old song and let her hear it from Don Henley of the Eagles called Dirty Laundry. She had never heard it before, of course. But so they exploited us, and we knew it was coming. But in the same sense, we exploited them because we needed them to get the word out about Andrea, and we were willing to do anything and take whatever damage comes and deal with that to help find Andrea.
That's interesting. And I actually said something very similar to Amelia that I'm sure that they knew that this was a possibility and did it anyway because it was going to spread awareness in her case and it was worth it to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our eyes were wide open when it came to this.
Yeah, it had already happened with investigation discovery on a smaller scale. Before the Finding Andrea came out, I did like a small, like a maybe 3-minute video or something we did on Andrea. And if you look at the comments on it, it just goes on and on and on about how terrible I am. And so I knew that it was coming and it was stressful. A lot of times I had been at work all day, drove all over town to get my kids and made it there 15 minutes late because I was rushing, so like a lot of it, I feel like they picked and chose what they wanted to say out of like 12-hour interviews for, that it was a year of like spending half of an entire day doing that. And those very small clips is what they chose to use out of context.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, let's take a moment and go back a little bit to the beginning of Andrea's story for our listeners, because people may be coming to this only from watching that, or they may never have heard her story. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of what her day was like leading up to her disappearance and the circumstances of her disappearance?
Aaron, you're better with that. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, that's usually something I end up with. I was the last person to see her that we know of. I usually started with her eating dinner at my mother's house that night. So with Andrea being evicted, she was living with my mother. My mom's bathrooms were being renovated by Sarah and Ethan, who have a house in Lexington, but they came in town to do this renovation, and they were living there while the remodeling was going on. She has 2 bathrooms that they were working on. My mom was staying at a friend's house during this, so she was not like staying the night there. There was no running water for the most part, but she would come over after work and eat dinner. She'd bring them food and things like that and talk to them and see how the progress was, and then go stay at either her sister's or her friend's house. So anyways, Sarah, Ethan, Andrea, and my mom were eating dinner, and the subject of Andrea's struggles came up. My mom was not happy with the progress Andrea was making to correct her situation, which, in my opinion, I think about like the mother bird pushing the baby out of the nest so that it'll fly. It was kind of like that. It made my mom nervous. My mom thinks like, what if I died in a wreck tomorrow? What would happen to Andrea? So it kind of makes her anxious to where she wants to push Andrea back onto her feet. Well, that pressure can be very stressful. So in my opinion, it was just a difficult family situation that I feel it's pretty common for families to go through that. You want to fix them, give your family member advice, and sometimes it can just be overwhelming. Well, on this particular night, I guess maybe there was like some attitude involved, and Andrea kind of said, stop, I'm doing the best I can, leave it alone. And it kind of caused an argument between my mom and Andrea. So Sarah jumped in and was like, Mom's right. And Andrea kind of felt like teamed up on. So she went upstairs to her room instead of eating dinner with them to cool off and to just get away for a little bit. My mom left, went to her friend's house, and then Andrea came back downstairs later and asked, a part of the argument, I guess, was saying that she needed to see a doctor. Well, they meant a psychiatrist. And she said, well, I want to see a doctor right now. She had some skin problems, so she was wanting to go to the ER and get some medicine for her face, and I'm not sure if it was eczema. It's possible that it could be a side effect from the prescription of Adderall that she had. And other people have speculated that it was because of drug use. We don't know the answer to that, so I'm not going to say I do know. But anyway, she went to the hospital. Ethan actually took her, which is my sister's fiance. And my family, it's normal for people to argue and say their piece. And then, a little bit, some time passes and you move on. It's like, we love each other is the bottom line, so why would you hold a grudge over saying something out of love? That doesn't make sense. So anyways, they made up, obviously. Ethan dropped her off at the emergency room so she could get some skin cream. And then the plan was for my mom to give her the numbers on an Uber card. I guess it was like a gift card. I don't really use Uber, so I'm not sure how that works. But anyways, Andrea, after she left the doctor, she attempted to use that. It wouldn't work. This is something she complained to me about that night. And so she ended up having to pay her Uber home from the hospital. She went to my mom's house, couldn't get in, came to my house. And that's when I saw her walking up, I was sitting on my porch actually, and I was kind of unplugging, like not dealing with electronics. I kind of was just had enough for the day. I wanted to hang out with my friend Michelle that was there. I've known her since like 1999, and my kids were already asleep. This is about 11:30 at night. So I was sitting on my porch talking to Michelle. Andrea walks up, and she kind of looked like she was rushing. She was hot. And it's kind of that feeling, you know how like say you're walking down the street, you're having a terrible day, you're holding it together because you're in public. You know, you don't want to let loose in front of people that don't know you. And then you see the person who loves you, and you just let it all out. That's kind of what happened. Like she saw me and she was like, "Aaron, I've been trying to call you. I've had the worst day ever." And she told me about the argument and how she couldn't get the Uber card to work, or the Uber number, sorry. And she was kind of loud, and that's kind of the way Andrea is. Like she's a loud person. She's the kind of person that like if she's having an amazing time, she can make everybody in the room feel amazing. And the same is true if she's having a terrible day. Like she can really make you feel her emotions. And so she was like loudly talking about it and crying. And I told her, my thought was it sounded like a lot of people had been like talking at her that day and telling her things that she obviously knew already. So I thought it would be best for me to just listen to her. So that's what I did. I listened to her vent, and then she went inside. I told her to go in and cool off, and she splashed some water on her face. It was the middle of August, so it's hot. And she sat on my floor in the living room watching TV because my kids were asleep on the floor, and there was some remodeling going on upstairs. So with that being said, I love my sister and I would do anything for her. But the thing that was holding me back is I felt like I couldn't sacrifice. And this is hard for me to talk about because it's just, if I would have known what was at stake that night, I never would have done this. But my thoughts were, I love Andrea and I want to help her any way I can, but not at the expense of my home and my children and our safety. With having a big heart and wanting to help people, that can draw in some bad people that want to take advantage of that. And that's what I felt like was happening at the time. And I had to get up early the next day, take my kids to school and babysitters and go to work. And Andrea was like wide awake. And it was maybe 12, 1, something like that in the morning. So I was thinking that if I had her stay the night and then I went to work the next day, like I didn't know what was going to happen in my house. Like some of her friends had stolen all the TVs in her last house, for example. That's just like one thing that happened, you know. And another one argued with her when he drove her to Walmart, and then he just left her there and just at a random store far away from her house. So like these people did not care about her. And I know at my mom's house, they were coming over a lot. So that I was kind of worried about that happening at my house. This is all I have to take care of my kids. So it was a very tough decision. And so I called my parents and I kind of laid into my mom. I said, look, you told her that she could live here, that this was her home. You need to make sure she gets into the house. Mm-hmm. And I talked to my dad and he said, just give her a ride home. So I took her home while my friend Michelle stayed and sat with my kids. I dropped her off at mom's house, came home. My friend Michelle left. And then I laid downstairs with the kids. Then I heard a knock at the door and I opened it, and Andrea was at my back door and she was telling me that she still couldn't get in. And she was asking me to stay with her. And this is the part I hate the most. Like I didn't use my back door for a very long time just because all I could think about was her crying, you know, and that's just the worst. It's the worst memory that I have. It's definitely the worst night of my life. But anyway, she was wanting to stay with me. And I told her, I'm sorry. No, you need to go back to mom's. And I fully thought that she would get into the house. There had been other times where they had argued and she would lay in her car and go to sleep. And then like she would choose to sleep in her car, you know, out of like stubbornness, which, I mean, we all have our stubborn times. So I assumed that at the worst, she would sleep in her car and the next day everything would be fine. I didn't think it was just like any other night. And it's just, you never think that your family member is going to go missing. Like that doesn't happen. It's unheard of in Audubon Park and in Camp Taylor. I don't know a single other person who's had that happen. So it's just, for me, it's changed the way I look at every single day. Like there's no normal day anymore for me. I was already careful, and now I'm a lot more careful, because I just think if this can happen to Andrea on a normal night, that's just like any other day, it could happen to my kids or anyone else that I love at any second. So just, it really changes who you are as a person. And that's how I feel. I'm very protective, very cautious. But the next morning I woke up and went to work. I had no idea that anything was out of the ordinary. I assumed that she went home and went to sleep and that everything was fine the next day, because that's normally what would happen. So we had a group text, my mom, Sarah, and Andrea, and I. So my mom texted in the morning. I'm not sure of the exact time. It may have been around 9 or 10. And she said, has anyone talked to Andrea? So I guess she was wanting to check on her, because she knew that Andrea was having trouble getting in, and Andrea was not answering. Well, my thoughts were, it's morning time. It's normal for Andrea to be up really late at night and to be sleep in the next day. So my thoughts were, whether she went to her friend Amber's house or stayed at, a different friend, she was probably still asleep. So at that point, I continued on with my work and expected to hear something later on that day. Well, my mom messaged again around 4 o'clock, like 4 p.m. And that's when I really started to worry and started checking around with everyone that I knew, like close family members that she would talk to, her closest friends, which included Nancy. Amber Carey was the last person that I was having trouble getting a hold of. And that was actually her best friend. They had been roommates before she was evicted. So that's generally where she would stay. So it took Amber a few days to get back to me. And it got back to me. That's when, like, I was losing my mind. I thought, oh my God, something is really wrong. And that's when I filed the police report and started raising awareness on the internet, and doing everything I could to find Andrea. In the beginning, it was mostly a lot of sightings. And at that point, we thought maybe she was upset. Maybe she had a mental breakdown was a possibility. Maybe she got on some bad drugs, because who knows, even if she didn't choose it, someone could have laced something that she had, or someone could have plied her with drugs and they could be trafficking her. Like, there's so many possibilities. And our thoughts were like, this is an emergency. So Dad and I were like immediately in action. I feel like we've both had that personality our whole lives, where like I would be the go-to person if something went wrong. Like, if I remember one time my nephew needed stitches, and Andrea was like, Aaron, what do we do? And I was like, well, first let's call Mom. She's a nurse and she knows like what hospital we should probably take him to. And I looked at it and I said, it's probably going to need stitches or glue or something. Obviously it's not going to fix itself at this point. And like, I would just be the one that usually would act right away and fix the situation instead of freaking out. So I feel like that's what Dad and I started to do immediately. And we've been doing it this whole time, but it weighs on you no matter if you're good at situations or not when it goes on for years. And I feel like it has definitely taken a toll, not to the point where I'm going to give up, which that's not going to happen.
I just want to say thank you for sharing so vulnerably and candidly. I know that's something that's really hard for you to talk about, and I completely understand that. So I want to say thank you so much. I can't even wrap my mind around how much all of this probably has affected you to this day. And I see how much action the two of you take, whether the Finding Andrea documentary was, totally fair or not. They did at least show how hard the two of you, I thought, were working. Maybe you were even working harder than they showed. I don't know. Mike, I noticed that every single time a tip came in, you were like, boom, let's go out the door. You were on your way out.
I did. I dropped everything and went. It could be 4 o'clock. I could be finishing work. It could be any time of the day. It could be 10 o'clock. And there's people that call in and say, I have your daughter. I'll meet you at this intersection. And I would head directly there and meet the private investigator there to see if it was her. And obviously it was somebody just trying to get the reward. And that's an interesting situation on the reward. The police don't want one. The private investigators want one, and they want to increase it. The police said the reward never does good with missing people. And all that it does is bring crazy people out trying to extort you. And that has happened to us in probably 3 to 4 states. Extortions. I have your daughter, Aaron. You're usually the one they call. I have your daughter. You send this money to this address, or this page, or this account, or we're going to hurt her. Then you ask for proof that you have her, and then they disappear.
Yeah, I remember the first time I got one of those. I was at work, and I was in the middle of supervising like a large group of people, which is already, you have to pay attention and make quick decisions. So like when that happened, it's like everything else is erased, and that's all I can think about. So I had someone cover for me so I could step away from the situation and really concentrate on this, because I mean, if you don't have your family, would anything else matter? The reason we go to work is so that we can enjoy time with our family. So that's how I look at it. And anyways, I called the detective immediately with the LMPD and explained to him the situation, gave him the number, and he told me that those are always not real. And yeah, that was really hard for me to hear, because I thought she would be alive, and like I might see her today type of situation. Like, she's okay, I might see her soon. So it was like scary, but also happy. It's hard to explain really. But when he told me that, it was a huge letdown. And since then, I've started to notice that, because I've had so many more calls after that where I can kind of understand why it's not real. And I'll say things like, if you really have my sister, put her on a video right now. Tell her to call me right now. This isn't, the 1930s. We have phones. So they would always make up weird excuses like, she's not with me right now. She's, 10 miles away, and I need gas money to get to her. Like, just crazy, things that like any normal person would not do. So eventually I caught on to it, and you kind of get desensitized to it. You have to survive and get through daily life, like you have to adapt and build walls against this stuff, but it's hard. It's
horrible.
There's very little you won't do when you have a loved one missing. You won't sleep when you're home. You don't feel like you should be in your house. You don't feel like you should eat dinner. You don't feel like you should be in your bed sleeping. And it just goes on and on. We got ourselves into some very dangerous situations. Erin, particularly very early, one that I attempted to shut her down afterwards. She essentially was using herself as bait, going to what's called a trap house with a friend of hers, and I was in the car behind them in pursuit with a private investigator, and we thought Andrea might be in this house in a trafficked situation. So that was the last time I wanted to risk Erin, but we've done some things that, looking back, I just can't believe we got away with it. We were in the project area, known cartel area, drug trafficking dealers everywhere, with a flashlight and a flyer knocking on doors at midnight. And if you only can imagine, if it's pitch dark and you don't know what's coming out the door, a shotgun, a big dog,
right?
Whatever. The stuff, things like that. And it could go on. There were dozens of things like that. But I attempted. The reason why I brought this up is I attempted to have Erin work inside and social media and to protect her, and so she could be safe for her family. She's got those young kids; they need her, and she certainly shouldn't be at risk. But she has a mind of her own, and she mostly did that. But I found out about a couple of things that she did later on, and there's no stopping her. There really isn't. I'm so humbled by how strong she is and how she's grown.
Fearless.
In this, the most dire, hopeless, awful time, she has grown, and it's just been so impressive to witness it. It makes me so proud.
Thanks,
that is
Dad.
very brave.
Most people would wilt under what she's been through. I promise you.
I feel like in some ways I'm stronger than I ever was before, but in other ways I'm broken beyond repair. It's a crazy feeling, but I just have to stay positive through it, and action is what will solve this, not feeling sorry for myself is the way I feel.
Right.
So
can you guys tell us a little bit about what we do know about the investigation so far? I have one specific question. In all of the sources I've looked at, one thing that's really confused me has been, after she left your house the final time, some people say that she certainly ended up back at your mom's house, and like something to do with her phone. What can you guys tell us about that phone evidence that they have? Is there anything?
Sure. Erin, go ahead. You're better.
Okay. what we've learned about this is that, well, the way we were able to track her phone, first of all, is through Google Dashboard. So if you have an Android phone, you're logged into your Gmail, and then you're also logged into Gmail on your laptop. You can view Google Dashboard to see the phone movement. So that's how we were able to see where Andrea was. It showed her at the hospital, at my house, at my mom's house the first time, and then the second time. So the first time that it showed her movement to my mom's house, after leaving my house, it showed that she was there for hours before her phone died at 6:31 in the morning. So what we later learned is that law enforcement and the investigators had overlooked something. Like there was an option that you can click to get more information about each area. And I guess maybe it was showing like a generalized location, and they ended up revealing more information about where she was in that particular area of town. And it showed that she was at my mom's house for like 10 minutes. And that after that, she left on foot and went somewhere a lot closer, somewhere not far from there. And then her phone was there for a while and went dead. So that's what the new information is. And we're not supposed to reveal like the address at this point, just because they're still working on that. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that we do have people of interest at this point. So that's a work in progress, but so that's still being checked, and I'm still just staying positive no matter what until I know for sure that she's, anything awful. A lot of people kind of doubt me or say that we're in denial, but I wonder how they would be acting in this situation. I just don't think it's fair for them to judge me for wanting my sister to still be alive. Like, that's mind blowing to me that people don't want me to have hope.
So what do you do to help you keep the faith alive?
Well, anytime I'm having a really hard time, if something happens that really upsets me, I go into action. Like I do something. So a lot of times I'll laminate and hang flyers, and believe it or not, that can be a really crazy time. I've seen one time I was downtown in Louisville hanging a poster, and I saw these two men, like they grabbed like a pole or a bar or something that was on the ground, and they started chasing a girl it looked like she was working at a Taco Bell downtown. And I called 911 on that. But just crazy things happen. But to me, it's worth it. If anything, I hate to say this, I want to be safe for my family and my kids, but if anything happens, it was worth it, is the way I feel, basically.
You are a dedicated sister.
So it has changed our life, and I'll give you something current here. In Louisville, Kentucky last weekend was the Kentucky Derby. And everybody asks you, are you going to the track today? You going to the Derby? You going to the Derby? Are you going to the track? Well, Aaron and I did, but we did it to put posters and flyers up all around Churchill Downs. That was our Derby Day experience. And so anyway, we just walked all the way around there and all the poles and all the entrances, the at least the most used ones. That's what we did. So the things that I do is action, things like that. Spend more time with my family than I ever have. And number 3, I do exercise, and that helps a lot to relieve stress. And my poison is tennis, so I play tennis and tournaments
and CrossFit
and CrossFit because I play tennis. So that's what I do. And Aaron's starting to get out there a little bit too, and I'm happy about that.
What do you like to do, Aaron?
Yeah, so I'm learning, really relearning, because I've had many health kicks in my life. So I'm relearning that if I don't take care of myself, I'm not going to be able to help anyone else. So I've been going to the gym more. I usually use the treadmill. I also take my kids for walks a lot through the neighborhood with one of my best friends. I always have to have like a buddy when I'm exercising, whether it's walking or going to the gym. So I have my kids, and then one of my neighbors, who's also my best friend. So we do that. So I go hiking when I can. Andrea and I used to like looking for waterfalls and unusual, pretty things in nature. So I'll still go to some of those places that were special to us. And then I'll look for new ones, because that's what we enjoyed doing, was exploring new areas. So yeah, one of those places is Saunders Springs. It's a natural spring that flows out of a cave, and there's a lot of many waterfalls that you can play, the kids and you can play on it and jump off of and swim in. So it's a lot of fun. And I spend time with my kids and my nephews. They make me really, really happy and definitely make me feel better about everything going on. And I enjoy spending time with my dad. Like, a lot of people will say things like, "That's so sad you spent your weekend hanging posters for your missing sister." And to me, it's like, I love spending time with my family. I enjoy being with my dad and my kids, and we're doing something meaningful. And I would much rather be doing that than pretending to have fun doing something else.
Yeah, the point there is, I think when an occurrence like this happens, you really find out who loves you and who's important to you. And you try to bring them closer to keep them safe and spend a lot of time with them. And that's what we've done.
This might be a little bit of a hard question, but how's your relationship with Sarah now? I know in the documentary, they tried to get you to say it was a little strained. How are you doing these days?
If you're talking to me, it still is the same way. It's really, really odd because she and I were most alike and we were very close. And she had never said a foul word of any type to me in her life, ever. And apparently she is thinking that I'm accusing her of certain things, her and her fiance. And anybody that is around me know that is my worst nightmare of any parent. That one daughter maybe and her fiance might be responsible for another daughter's demise. That'd just be horrible. It's hard to even think of that. But anyway, I spoke to her right after this happened and just made sure she told the police everything she knew and tried to get that out there. But apparently she picked up a part of a piece of information that made her think that I'm accusing her of certain things. And I am not. It is what I can say is what I've seen of her character. That is not her character to do something like that. And if it were to have happened, it would be totally out of character, no doubt. And so she is still mad at me, and she hasn't spoken one word to me in over 2 years. Not one word.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I last told her, and then I think I reinforced it with a text that I'm here for her like I always have been and always will be, and I'll wait for you to come home.
How are Andrea's kids doing? I think of them often. We don't look at those little victims of tragedies like this quite as much.
I feel like they're very, bright, smart kids that they're resilient and they're able to continue doing what they need to do. But I also know that they're carrying a lot of grief with them. And I just tell them as much as I can, I'm here for you. And I make sure they know that I say everybody loves Andrea. We all miss her. They might not talk about her because they don't want to make you sad, but just know that we all love her and miss her. And I say, if you ever see anything that makes you think of your mom or memories, I always love to hear about Andrea. You can always talk to me about Andrea. And I make sure that they know that we're doing everything we can and that we're going to continue that until we find her.
Right.
I'm hoping that comforts them. And I'll even show them like details, like not every single comment on the internet because that would be crazy, but I show them like the missing posts that I make, the flyers that I laminate. They've helped me hang some. And I think that helps them.
I can support with what she says. I had a particular experience with one of her sons. I'm not even going to identify which one. And they stay with me occasionally. And we saw them actually yesterday, one of them yesterday at the ballpark. But I was serving him dinner. And after he had a sandwich, he asked me to make him another sandwich. And then it wasn't 10 seconds later that he just broke down and cried. And he was talking that I eat too much because I miss my mother so much. And he started bawling. And it just broke me up. And but so they seem strong, they seem healthy and everything, but with things like this that it's right behind. And it's that way with Aaron and I too, but it's the same way in the kids. They carry it around with them, and it's never far. The hurt and the pain is never far, but you learn to deal with it. But sometimes it gets the best of you, and it is really heartbreaking to see a child with a situation like that. So that happened about 6 months ago.
That's so sad. And I'm grateful, if nothing else, that they at least have such good examples in the two of you where they can see that, people are looking hard for their mom. People are still keeping her in their hearts and really just trying their best to find her no matter what. And so I'm glad that they have that. Is there anything else that you want us to know about Andrea or about where the investigation is currently?
I guess I'm sorry.
Go ahead, dear. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say my feelings on Sarah, because when this first happened, it was originally not known what happened after Andrea left my house. So when Andrea first went missing, we did not reveal everything that we knew. It was still an ongoing investigation, and we were advised to not tell the public yet about her phone movements. If it was up to the police, we wouldn't be saying anything, So we would go by what the private investigator told us to do, because I felt like he was the one that would communicate with me the most. So anyways, all everyone knew was that the last place she was my house. So everyone was accusing me of murder. I had thousands of people accusing me of murder every single day. My phone was blowing up, hundreds of messages, hate comments all over all my profiles. And imagine going to work knowing that everybody in the back of their minds knows that you're being accused of murder by everybody in the city, and having to face one time I broke down on my way into work, and I was like, there's no way I can go in and face a whole room of people like this. My face is red, my eyes are watering. And so I just go straight up to my boss's office and told her exactly how I felt and what was happening. And she said, Erin, I've already seen it. I know who you are. I know you're not that kind of person. And I'm on your side. It's like you're running for office or something. People just look for dirt. They do it for entertainment. It's sick. And with that being said, everybody at that time was saying, it's obvious Erin's a murderer. It's obvious Erin's a murderer. And it was simply because I was the last person to saw my sister. So with that being said, I don't think it's fair to do the same thing to my little sister. What I've seen my entire life was them not just being sisters, but being friends, the same way Andrea and I were. Sarah and Andrea was the kind of mom who she was a great mother, but she would also spend some time to her house time to herself, like meaning she'd go out with her friends and do things like that. So her and Sarah had that in common most of our adult life, where they would get together separately. And then Andrea and I would get together for like the family moments where we would do things like mother things with our kids. So both of us were very close to Andrea, especially with her having her big personality, and she was a lot of fun. Sarah and I are both more quiet natured, so it would make sense we were not as close in our adult life, but I still love her a lot, so I'm not going to go around accusing the people I love the most of terrible things. Obviously going to go by facts, and I'm not going to go by my emotions to figure this out. That doesn't make sense. But why would I go around accusing the people that I love the most, that I would trust with my own life, my own kids, of something crazy? Like, it makes me wonder if people are projecting their own crazy stuff onto my family.
It's important to know that in the timeline, it is directed away from the house now. Apparently, Andrea was there very, very briefly. And so it's going away from the house now, and that is the most likely scenario. So that's not widely known, and it should be now. So we don't know what happened after she left the house, but she apparently left the house soon after she got there.
That's really good to know. Thank you. And I also think, people always look for not everybody, but people sometimes are prone to look for the most dramatic example in these situations. And so that's probably partly where that came from too, looking for the most gossip-worthy story.
And we say those things, but, we're tracing a phone. We can say her phone left the house. We assume she was with the phone. And
right.
It stopped somewhere for a while, and we assumed she was there when it stopped. We don't know that for sure either, of course. But her phone was tracked away and was at a certain place for quite an extended period of time before it went dead.
What do you all feel like the public can do now for you? What's the most helpful thing that we can do to help find Andrea?
Erin, talk about your social media. That's the best thing.
Yeah, so I have a volunteer group called Andrea's Angels. We communicate on Facebook Messenger. So if anyone wants to join Andrea's Angels, you can send me a message or even comment to me and tag me in the comments on any social media, and I can get you added to that group. We basically brainstorm ways to raise awareness. So, for example, we have volunteers who are graphic designers. They use their talents to design posters and things for me to share. We come up with maybe podcasts to write, like you guys. I found out about you all from Andrea's Angels, just an example. They've also helped me find missing persons organizations like the Q Foundation, who will bring in cadaver dogs to help us find Andrea. And we have a lot of missing persons advocates that are helping us. It's actually caused me to be able to help a lot of other families going through this from all the information I've gained through it. So it would, if anyone wants to join Andrea's Angels at this point, you're helping missing people in general. And then following all my social media pages that I use to find Andrea is another thing that you can do to help, and just sharing posts. Like if you don't want to be in a group chat, you can always just follow those profiles and share posts that way. So I'm using Facebook. There's Where is Andrea Knabel and Finding Andrea are the two pages. And then there's a group called Andrea Knabel Missing in Louisville, Kentucky Case Discussion Group, which that used to be a gossip group that I started using to raise awareness. There's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Discord, Reddit. Reddit's really hard for me because people are really mean, and I have to step away from that one just so that I can make it through the day. Most of the time it's way too stressful. So I'm not as active on Reddit, but I do get on there and share stuff from time to time. But everything else, I'm on it every day, and anyone that wants to join, they're more than welcome.
Well, we will be there, and we will also make sure we put links to as much of that as possible on our website. We are going to type up a little quick version of Andrea's story to share with photos of her, and we will link it back to this conversation so that everybody can get to know Andrea and her story and her family. And we will be sure to put as many of those links in there as we can.
I just thought of a couple other things. So this shirt, like the one I'm wearing right here, you can buy this if you go to bonfire.com and type in Andrea Knabel. You can buy this shirt. It's about $25 or so, and the proceeds go to the search for Andrea Knabel. Then we also have a GoFundMe that I've been using to gain more. Let's see. So I've bought laminating machines with them. I've bought lamination sheets to go, like, to hang posters. And then also we use it to help for like volunteers and experts. For example, like a lot of times when volunteers come in town, like, well, you know, pay for like maybe their dinner or lunch and things like that, because they are, you know, getting their hotels and spending hours or, you know, days doing this. So we use it for things like that. Searches. About 15 cadaver dogs are coming to Louisville. So we will need volunteers to flank the dogs and also to help with like the setup of, like, we'll have a meeting area where, like, you know, they can eat and get water and stuff like that. So yeah, basically there's a lot of different ways, and just following all my pages is a way that you can keep up to date with that.
That's great. Thank you. I wish we were in the Louisville area and could come participate. We would be there. Is there anything else that you would like for us to know? Any final thoughts you want to share with us?
I guess, you know, I look at this story and I get very sentimental, and I tried to come up with a message for Andrea, what her life means. Hopefully she's still around, but she was struggling in ways you can't imagine, ways that haven't been totally released, ways that totally surprised her father. A father doesn't know what his 37-year-old daughter's doing all the time. She was in really bad shape, financially, in a lot of different ways. But she still looked for missing people, even though she was in distress. She looked for other distressed people, and I think there's a story in there, and I think there's a message in there, and I've said this before in other places. Her message is to help people now when they need it. The perfect time never arises for you to spend time helping people. you never, you don't want to wait till you retire or wait till you accumulate money. You should help them right now, immediately when they need it. And that would be Andrea's message to your audience.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful and well put, and we agree with you. We're going to have Amelia read our call to action for tonight, and then we will sign off and stop the recording. Thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate it very much. Good luck to you on your journey. Stay in touch, and we will be sure to keep everyone posted.
Thank you so much. We're in debt for your all's help. Thank you.
Okay, Amelia.
Andrea Knabel was last seen between 1 and 2 a.m. near Chickadee Road area of Louisville, Kentucky on August 13th, 2019. She was last seen wearing a light-colored tank top, light shorts, and light-colored Nike shoes. She is a Caucasian female with brown hair and hazel eyes, approximately 5'7" and 180 pounds. She has pierced ears and light scarring on her face and neck. If you have any information about the disappearance of Andrea Knabel, you can call 502-574-7120 to reach the Louisville Metro Police Department Missing Persons Unit, or 502-618-9337 to reach the private investigator on the case. Andrea's family invites you to join the Facebook group, Where is Andrea Knabel?, which we will link in the show notes for you.
That's all we have for you tonight. Thank you so much for listening. You can find shareable content on our social media at Lost Souls of America and our website, lostsoulsofamerica.com. Please share often and help spread awareness for their cases. These are the stories of the voiceless. These are the lost souls of America.